And it's time for another episode of Justapod, and we go back into the Fox Valley Association once again. On the girls' side, it's AC Clouthier joining us, head coach of the Hortonville Polar Bears. Hey, coach, thanks for coming on. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. We love talking to the local coaches. We're going to start talking to some local players as well. But let's talk about this Polar Bear program that you took over now 3 years ago. You're in your fourth year. And I'll tell you what, you've had plenty of success, 64-19 going into this season. Obviously, this year, sitting in fourth place currently in a very difficult FVA. It's interesting, Coach. We talk about the FVA on the boys' side quite a bit and how competitive it is. Maybe talk about how competitive the girls' side is, because I think that gets lost in the shuffle. I mean, we're talking Kimberly, state champions a year ago. Nina, we know about the Rockets and Coach Brunell over the last few years. Appleton East, undefeated in the FVA, a state qualifier a year ago. That is a gauntlet. I didn't even mention any of the teams below you, but there's your top three along with your team. Talk about the FVA and just how this season has gone so far for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, quite frankly, that was a huge draw for me. Um, I was coaching college basketball Division III at Concordia University, Wisconsin, and when this job opened up, that was a huge draw for me. Going to a place that is got really, really good athletes, really, really good coaches, and just what's the next step, right? And to go to a place that I feel like I can instill some college atmosphere and some college coaching with high level IQs and high level athletes, but then not have half your games just a walk in the park. And the FVA, I've been here this fourth year. I think this is as good as it's been in a long time. And even over the years, the teams that are even finishing at the bottom, have college athletes and or college basketball players, right? So you are going to teams even if they haven't won a game in the league. They got athletes that know what they're doing and coaches that are doing a really good job. And this year, say what you want about Appleton East being undefeated. I don't think anyone really didn't see that coming. You always look at the Kimberleys and Ninas and Hortonvilles to that, but they play so consistently. They should play so methodically, and then they just don't beat themselves. And Coach Passion over there has done a really, really good job, and just mixing some things up. But even Appleton North is having a really good year this year. There's been some coaching changes, some of the other teams. So there's going to be maybe a year of adjustment with those, but these are all big schools and they all have athletes, and they give you your best shot every night of the week. And there's not a night that you're playing on the road and you're like, oh, this is going to be an easy one, right? We got to do it and we got to prepare, and we got to play well just about every night.
Let's go backwards a little bit. You took this program over, as I mentioned, 3 years ago, now in your fourth. What were your thoughts coming into this thing? All of a sudden, you're at the state basketball tournament taking on a very, very good Kettle Moraine team. You lose 77-67, but this is your first year at Hortonville, and you're like Rainey Welson, lighting it up, unbelievable basketball player. She's at the University of Maryland now. She scored 28 points in that 10-point loss, a very close game. But when you took this program over, did you, expectations obviously had to be high, but were you pinching yourself a little bit like, wow, first year, unbelievable success, and you've had quite a bit more since then, but maybe take us back to that very first year and kind of your mindset.
Yeah, I mean, Celeste has done an incredible job of building this program and maintaining that program, getting it to high heights, right? And I didn't really have, I guess I could say, true expectations. I just came in here and I didn't want to let anyone down. I didn't want to let previous coaches and athletes down, and I obviously was different than some other of the coaches, or obviously than Celeste was. So it was really trying to find our mold and the kids buying into my system. That's what I really appreciated about Hortonville right from the get-go. It was not trying to get to know. It was just, coach, what are we going to do the same? What are we going to do different? Let's go after it. We had some really good leaders and some really good athletes there. And, I think it took us about half the year to really buy into, a change of the defensive system and some of the offensive things that I do differently than Coach Celeste did. And, but you get in the tournament run and it's anyone's game. I've never prided myself on how our teams start the year. We always challenge our athletes with the best schedules that we can come up with for hopes that we can make a really good deep playoff run or be a really tough out. And we were fortunate enough to play in a sectional final at a gym that both Nina and us are familiar with. And, they're the 1 seed, and they beat us pretty good both times that year. And at that point, why not shoot well tonight? Why not be the more aggressive team? If things go our way, that's great. If things don't, we weren't supposed to win anyway. And I think sometimes being the 1 seed is much more challenging. When you have a lot to lose versus everything to gain by it. So I think that was just our mindset, and we just wanted to put our best effort out there. And fortunately, we got off to a really good first half, and we never looked back. So that was a really, really fun year for us. And then, obviously that next year, it kind of roles reversed a little bit. We were the 1 seed. We had some really, really good athletes. A lot of them are playing college basketball, playing college softball, and things like that. So we were the 1 seed, same gym. We beat Nina pretty good, both times that year. Now they're coming in, and, they have really good athletes, and they have really good basketball players. And, Allie Zabella's not going to lose 2 times, right, or 3 times in one season to a team, and she's not going to lose another sectional final, right? So she took it upon herself, but she had a really, really good cast as well. So, our backs were on the wall that game, and they did some nice things. And, I'll sit there and think about what I didn't do or what I should have done differently throughout that whole time. But, they got the best of us, but, just being in those games, I think a lot of coaches would agree sectional final games are the most exciting and most intense and most fun games to be a part of. Playing at state is awesome. But there's nothing that can replicate a sectional final, and especially in a gym like Appleton East that is so loud, and the bleachers go really, really high. But just a really cool atmosphere and things to build on and continue our community. We have a really good involvement with our youth kids, and our athletes do a really good job of working with them too. But but that was that's disappointing. And then you just try to figure out how to get back there again. And if we're going to keep moving on, then the next year, obviously we have a talented group, but we lose a lot of experience. Obviously we returned Rainey Welson, but that's on everyone's game plan, and that's on every team scout, is to make sure she is not doing her best. So our other athletes had to step up. And then unfortunately we had a couple injuries that year, and those aren't excuses, but when you have a Rainey Welson type S kid, and another really, really good one in a Cardin Pepler, the third of the Peplers that played at Hortonville, and all really, really good at what they do. And, you got to really figure out how to create things and do things differently. A lot of people don't realize, well, yeah, you lost Rainey Welson, you lost Cardin Pepler, but that's about 35 points a game. That's about 12 rebounds. That's about 7-8 assists a game. Those are our top IQ kids. Those are our best passers. Those are our best assists. Those are the kids that turn the ball over the fewest and handling the ball the most time. So we had to replace a lot of things. And, then we ran into a really improved Appleton East team, and they beat us at home in a regional. And I vowed to our kids that we'll never lose a home tournament game again. So that is kind of our mindset this year. Now we do not have Rainey Wilson, but we have, I think, a much deeper cast and a really close-knit group. They work really, really hard, but we're still a little bit young. We have 3 seniors this year. Julian Martin has been on the varsity. She moved up her freshman year, but she's been on the varsity the last 3 years and had some really good games for us and has a lot of success. And Paige Claus and Taylor Lilly are doing a really good job of holding our group together and being team sporters and positive and getting some good minutes and making some good baskets. As a group right now, I don't think we have got to our potential. We do well in streaks. We play really, really well one night, and the next night difficult for us. But when you have a team that's down a little bit, everyone in the FVA is out to get you. We do have 7 losses. But you look at all those 7 losses; those are all 2 top 10 teams, or have been top 10 teams, or maybe will be top 10 teams. Going to be real high section seeds, whatever sections they're in. We lost Kimberly by 4, and then Nina by 7, and Appleton East by 6, and Notre Dame got away from us a little bit with some free throws, and we played at the Crest Center, so it's a little bit different atmosphere. And Verona, we had a really good halftime lead, and we had leads in a lot of these games, and just haven't found out a way to close some games and win some games yet. But that comes with some experience and some youth, and I do think our kids our athletes are getting better. Cardin Pepler is a 3-year player for us now as a junior, and she's as good as you get. She's as efficient as you get. She's like we talked about earlier. She's averaging around 15.5 points, almost 15 points a game, and that's coming with kind of the same treatment that Rainey Welson used to get. Right, a lot of teams are doubling her or face guarding her or making sure everything she does is really really difficult, which opens the game for a lot of us. This is probably one of the most well-rounded groups of scoring, and I don't think we're at the point where we'd like to be there yet, but Madeline Springer's another kid that's really, really been good for us. Last year, we really worked on her consistency and her decision making, and this year she's really held our group together. She's a really, really good defender. Not much size from her, but really good competitor, and she has grown a lot individually and especially her IQ and her decision making process. And she's doing a really good job. Julian is like I said, one of our main senior leaders. She's going to Viterbo to play basketball for Coach Scar, and she's done everything we want her to defensively, and she's given us everything there. And she'll be the first to admit this might not be her best offensive year yet, and she's got to get consistent there, and we're waiting for her to do that. And I think when she does, and I know it's coming at some point, we're going to be really tough when she's scoring a lot of baskets too, because we certainly have Morgan McCallow and Grace Rise and Mallory Warner are really coming off the bench for us that really offer some good defensive opportunities, but are really learning to play offense and score the basketball. And they've come a long way from years past. And we have mixed up our starting lineups a couple times this year for those purposes to be a little bit bigger. But again, we're still trying to find our mold, and even though we're 8-7, we just started the second half of the FPA, right? We just played Kimberly last week for the second time, and it didn't go our way, but it was 18-18, at the last minute, and then made an error, and then it was 22-18 going into half. So, we really got to find a way to win those first three and last three, and to just stay consistent through it. And I think that's the biggest piece. Not every one of our players is playing at their best every single night. It's a couple here and a couple there, and we got to find a way to put all those things together. And you look at our results and things, and defense really hasn't been our biggest issue. It's really trying to find ways to put the basketball in the hoop, and I have to do a better job of making our team more confident or less pressure or this and that. So I'm working tirelessly on that, and I know our athletes are too, and they're their best support system, and I think they do a really good job of trying to help each other and support each other. And yep, they're going to be crabby with me one day, but they got to do it for each other, So I even though our record's 8-7, it's almost funny because I really like where we're at. Going back to last year, we're almost in the position to be Appleton East at this point. And if we can be a really tough out and put things together, I think we can be a team that finished fourth in our league and still go to a state tournament, with another team in the FEA, like last year with Kimberly and Appleton East going. And I think we have a chance to do that. And I think we can score points. We just haven't shown that yet. But we defend, kids pick each other up, and kids are relentless. So.
Yeah, I love the comparison between Appleton East and what you just said. You could be the Appleton East this year, maybe a team that surprises a little bit, but just looking at your schedule, we talked about the FEA schedule. It's unbelievable. You just got done with Kimberly. You just mentioned it, 53-38, but now you got to take on Neenah. You got an Oshkosh North team after that is down this year. But then speaking of Appleton East, at Appleton East on the 30th of January. So these are games that are definitely going to test you and get your team ready for the postseason. This is about the time of year you want to crank it up. And maybe talk about how important this is over these next 2 to 3 weeks and really start to get tuned up for a postseason push.
Yeah, I mean, and the way our league is, if we can be fortunate enough to beat Neenah and then Appleton East, I mean, that changes the whole mindset of the league and the standings. And we probably won't win the entire league with 4 losses and 2 to Kimberly, but we could certainly shake some things up, and that might improve our section seed. So now we're almost playing for 2 home games, versus maybe 1 or something else for in the tournament, right? So they do mean a lot, whether we want to say so or not. We try to avoid mentioning that to our athletes a lot, but again, Neenah is going to be a big game, whether we're the worst in the league or the best in the league. If they're the best in the league and we're the worst in the league, they're always going to come to play, and it's always going to be a battle. I mean, it's two teams that are really, really good at what they do, and they know each other. They played against each other for years. And, we kind of mentioned it like, God, it would be really great to get them at their place. Now they're coming to our place, probably saying the same thing. We have to get a road win. And, it's not easy playing on the road in this league, and, even Oshkosh North, their record's not great, but they have a high Division I athlete in a Woot. And you go back to our first game against them, she read off like their first 9 points. Like they were up 9-3, right? So they have opportunities to beat you. And every team in this league can beat you. So every night is difficult. But, if we can string a couple together and really give Appleton East a run for their money, it's all about confidence going into the end of the year, right? And the better we can play now. Again, I said a little bit earlier, I don't pride ourselves in how we do at the beginning of the year. It's awesome to win conference, and that's your ultimate goal. But really what everyone remembers is how you do in the tournament for the most part every year. Like we won the FEA a couple of years ago, but then Nina beat us to go to the state tournament. No one talks about how Hortonville won the conference tournament.
Right.
The year before that, right? Nina won the FEA. We beat them to go to the state tournament. No one talks about how that team won the conference, right? So it's really a lot of pride going into that, and now it's just trying to putting ourselves in the best shape to have a high seed and get a couple home games, and then we'll take our chances at a neutral site.
We are visiting with the head girls basketball coach from Hortonville, AC Clouthier, this afternoon on the Justapod. Let's talk about your depth a little bit. I know you talked about some of your returning starters. Maybe talk about some of the girls on your roster that you haven't touched on as of yet. And then I'm going to ask you a closing question involving the history of Hortonville basketball a little bit most recently, and how key a role that Rainey Welson played into your program and continues to play in your program, even though she's not a part of it anymore. We'll get into that a little bit, but just talk about your roster, maybe the rest of the kids that come off the bench and give you valuable time off the bench.
Yeah, we talked about Pepler a little bit, following in her sister's footsteps. But I think the best thing that she does is I don't really think she follows her sister's footsteps. She's creating her own, and she's leaving her own mark at Hortonville. And she does everything we ask her to do, and she shares the ball. And again, I think the biggest piece with her is how effective she is. Very, very selective in her shooting. I mean, she's shooting 47% from three right now, which I think is remarkable. Earlier this year was in the high 56, but but Morgan McCallow comes off the bench for us. We put her either in for one of our guards or whatnot, but she is really coming to play basketball this year. She's around 8 points per game. She started a little bit earlier too, but she's really figuring out how to be a good reader and how to be efficient and come into her role. And she's a really good spark plug for us. And her defense has come a long way for us there. And Callie Pomrenning comes in and shoots the basketball. She's got distance from anywhere. And my favorite story about Callie is, speaking of Appleton East last year, she wasn't playing a lot of minutes in that tournament, and she didn't play at all on Appleton East. And then we were down about 6 points, and I said, Callie, we're going to run this play for you. I need you to go in. I need you to make it. She comes in, hasn't played a minute in this game, comes in, catches it, makes a basket. And that's the kind of attitude that this kid can bring to us, and that mentality. So we're really hoping for her to have a really big second half. And Grace Rise comes off the bench, but also has started some games for us. She offers some length. We do a lot of zone stuff with her. She's really shifty in there. She finished on the rim, and right now she's been real struggling to shoot from the three. But you would never notice that, and that's what I like about her. You never know that she is struggling to shoot or hasn't made a basket in a while. And again, that's these kids' mentality. And Mallory Werner is as consistent as you get with an athlete. She's really relentless defensively. And you know what you're going to get. You're going to get a bunch of rebounds and some good defense. And she's a kid that probably could be starting for us. We'll probably be starting a lot of teams in the FEA. But I asked her to come off the bench because I can put her at a guard, I can put her at a post, I can put her in a different spot, I can put her in a zone, I can put her anywhere we really need to, because of the versatility she is. And you look at our roster too. Right now, we have a lot of athletes that were on or had sisters on teams with big state runs and things like that with Coach Radka and this and that. Even Lainey Gaybauer has that. Warner's had two sisters through our program. Pepler's had two sisters through our program. McCallow's had a sister through our program. And then we got some kids, that are just waiting for their turn. And sometimes I think I have too lenient of a leash on some athletes and too tight of a leash on some athletes. But we have some size yet coming up, and Bea Beast and another Pepler, Calissa Pepler. Don't be surprised if you see some good minutes from them in the second half of the year and really maybe do some things in our zone or rebounding and things for us. So we have some stuff that we've been working on that we haven't shown yet. And again, I'm really excited for it. But our experience is not there yet, but we are continuing to build. And I think we are going to be ready, when that tournament comes.
Yeah, it sounds like a very well-rounded roster. Got a good history behind you, and obviously your future looks very bright with this basketball program. But that takes me to my last question. And I interviewed Brad Weber the other day from Oshkosh North. He's had a ton of talent over the years. We know about Tyrese Halliburton and obviously Xavier Mitchell from last year. So I'm going to ask you kind of the same question. So Hortonville has had their talent as well. And most recently, we talked about Rainey Welson. How much can she play into this? Okay, she's already done playing, but the fact that the younger kids, okay, at the youth level, they saw what Rainey did. Your current girls have seen what she did. How much can that take a basketball program and put it onto that next level? Because once you have a history behind you and a winning culture, it's amazing, especially in basketball, how one or two kids can literally flip the script when it comes to a basketball program. And we see it all the time. It just takes one or two kids, and all of a sudden, a basketball program explodes. Then the younger kids see it. They want to be the next Rainey Welson. Maybe talk about her value, even though she's no longer in your program. Yeah. She obviously can come back, maybe some summer camps, whatever the case may be. Yeah. But how important is it for a basketball program such as yours to have a kid like Rainey and what she did for it?
Yeah, and I wouldn't even just say Rainey Welson. Obviously, she might be that poster, athlete for Hortonville at this moment, being our all-time leading scorer and just being in the platform at the right time. But we go all the way back for a lot of years. We have Shea Frederick, who's coaching at UWGB, and now we have two Peplers at UWGB, all 1,000-point scorers, and Cammie Pepler scored 1,000-point at UWGB, and we actually have a Hortonville Day at UWGB coming up, where we're bringing our whole youth program and our three teams and going there. But I think this community is really, really special in the fact that, yep, we're a very big population, 1,300 in that range. But as you know, I spent a lot of time at Xavier High School, and I grew up there, and I've been a part of that community. But we have this big Division I program with a lot of people, but it feels like we are all together with 500 people. And and Rainey was a huge part of this. Like when we would do our summer camps, I almost said, Rainey, you have our kindergartners, you have our first through third grade. I'm not touching it. And she just ran that. And she coached basketball at the YMCA. And actually now we have about 8 to 9 of our athletes on our current varsity roster every Saturday coach basketball at the YMCA, and they have their teams and they work together and they're competing against each other. They have little games that my team's going to beat your team this week and this and that. They're always giving back to our community. And, I'm not going to say Rainey started that, but Rainey was a major influence on that. And I think for every athlete, because we get a really good turnout for our youth programs, for our games, and they do a good job. And we have ball girls, and our kids have been awesome at that. But, they come to these games and, they see Rainey Welson's, plaques and all the things that she has on the wall. And it's just awesome to have, those goals and incentives to try to get to. And, some of them may never be reached and might never be reached, but there's always that, if she could do it, maybe why stops me? And I think the best thing we've been very blessed at Hortonville to have so many Division I athletes and the caliber of basketball we have, but the stories that they can share with, yeah, you want to be an athlete like me at the Division I level. I didn't just go to practice, right? Like I went and shot in the morning, then I went to our practice, then I took care of my body. There's always more to it than just showing up for a 2-hour practice during the high school season. And what do you do all summer long, and how do you take care of your body? And I think Rainey is really, really good at those types of things, and along with our other athletes currently. And the the level of, I think expectations we have is sometimes really hard, right? But we have those expectations, and our youth program has those expectations. And I love meeting with our youth club and our youth program and our youth coaches because they want to be better, they want to learn more, and they want to bring a gold ball home more than I do sometimes. So our job's not done, and unfortunately, I thought Rainey was going to get one of those gold balls with us, but now it's on our job as this year's team or next year's team to go and finish that, not just for us, but for all of the community that has been so close. Hortonville's been there, 6, 7, maybe 8 times, and hasn't gotten that yet, right? So, that's our mission. And until we get that, I don't think anyone's ever going to be satisfied. But those expectations are really awesome as long as we handle them the right way, right? So, right now we're 8-7, and that's not what we expected, but it's not over yet, and we're going to continue to plug away.
There's plenty of season left. Let's just say that. We're only sitting here late January, but wow, it's been a pleasure catching up with you, Coach. I love the history. Your first 4 years have been absolutely sensational, and there's no reason why this is not going to continue into the near future and beyond. So, yeah, I want to thank you for your time, for coming on the Justapod, and good luck. You got a tough schedule coming up. We already talked about it. You got Neenah up next, and then a visit to Appleton East, amongst others. That's just your most closer schedule, I guess, if you will, coming up. So anyway, thanks for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Good luck the rest of the season. You bet.
Yeah, thanks for all you do.
All right, Coach Clouthier joining us today on the Justapod. If you want to check out the podcast, you can head over to justagame.com and you can view them there, and you can also get all your statistics needs and game recaps as well. And if you want to listen to this podcast, you can go over to Spotify or Apple Podcasts and download them there as well. So that'll do it. It was AC Clouthier joining us this afternoon, head basketball coach for the ladies over at Hortonville, the Hortonville Polar Bears out of the Fox Valley Association. Until next time, my name is Craig Bone. Thanks again for listening. This was the Justapod podcast. Thanks, everybody.